All right, so here we have, in amidst the nuclear holocaust, we have a group of humans journeying to Pittsburgh, having been called by a mysterious oracle. Along the way, the robot homeless start following them. We can assume stealing their lunches and causing other sorts of mayhem. They get to Pittsburgh, find an underground city under the Carnegie Library, which is ran by the Oracle, an animatronic Andrew Carnegie himself, which uses the homeless robots to help rebuild society, allowing the people to be free to mill about in the streets.
The only technology, Tom, is that pencil and paper. Good old
God save the Queen. God save the paper and
yeah.
pencil.
If there was ever technology that could accurately read our writing and interpret meaning, we're really done for.
We really are done for. Good thing nobody's working on that, right?
Nobody. Well, my favorite line here was, I thought it was really clever. The tendency of Americans to gorge themselves on foodstuff made mostly of petroleum byproducts protected them from the intense radiation, kind of like an inside-out sunscreen. Thought that was pretty clever. We get slices, the central metaphor of his oeuvre is trash and amalgamations of trash. And here we are in it in terms of a trash splendor. It's reminded me a lot of The Road, the Cormac McCarthy, the post-apocalyptic Cormac McCarthy novel.
Right.
Seems to be gesturing towards that. The journey to Pittsburgh, I was interested that, like, even in animatronic form, like, once an industrialist, always an industrialist. He's going to be putting those robots to work.
Right.
And then we have the human overlords just scrambling about, homelessly scrambling about the streets, like trying to bring some sort of order to this chaos. Contrasting that world building, or I guess world rebuilding, would be the humor, Tom. The humor. They were junkers because all they had was junk food.
Right.
I do think the characters could have been a little bit more. There could have been more to them. They were trying to stay alive and they were trying to get to Pittsburgh. But what was their relationship? Did they miss things? They just sort of accepted the traumatic aftermath of this nuclear holocaust without necessarily. I didn't get a sense of what was missing.
Right.
It was a dark story. I thought the 30-bag lunches was going to take us in
a lighter direction.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I enjoyed the. There was a reference to an earlier prompt that we did, which was that refrigerator that causes chaos, right? And so there's a reference to that refrigerator. Sowing this sort of discontent that causes a nuclear holocaust. So I thought that was interesting and a fun little gesture to previous times. I thought it was there's some sort of irony in here where the writer says, God help us if if robots can learn to read and write and interpret meaning, and then they end up responding to a robot. They end up to a robot has been writing and sending it out, which is almost like, I don't even think that animatronic Carnegie actually is able to interpret the meaning. I think it's just like those sort of like, those junk mails you get in the inbox of Facebook or LinkedIn or the email that are just too irresistible not to click. And it's just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, we're still susceptible to it, where it's like, hey, there's a guy that says they're an Oracle in Pittsburgh. Let's go. Like
they're so desperate for some sort of authority figure to organize what's happened that they just sort of like, let's click on that LinkedIn ad and say yes.
Yeah, like, why not? Let's see
all of our hopes and dreams onto it.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of a funny little bit of irony, and yeah, it was a broad world. I think you're right. Where the character development was sort of vague, but that the plot and the setting sort of made up for it a little bit.
Yeah, it was a sort of a post-apocalyptic snapshot.
Yeah. Interesting stuff there from Slice, and there you have it, folks. That was our top story of the day. Like I said, short and sweet today, but we will be back and better than ever tomorrow or the next day and the next day. There's the weekend, but
we do take off for weekends.
You understand the general gist here, right? Is onward and upward.